Start recording, and I'm going to start the broadcast, okay?
Okay.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to adjust my screen here a little bit so you don't see my big mess back there. My name is Tiffany Westrich Robertson. I am the CEO of the International Foundation for Autoimmune Arthritis and your World Autoimmune Arthritis host for this event. I also have the lovely Julie. Is it Cerrone? I didn't even ask you.
Cerrone.
Cerrone, see, I should have asked before I started. We have the lovely Julie joining us as well. Julie, say hi to everyone.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, Julie is one of the people that we're going to be talking with today. And so she's going to stand by while we actually talk first with Miss Melinda Winner. Melinda, are you there?
Yes. Hi, everyone.
That's Melinda. She's calling in, and she's going to do a quick 10-minute question and answer. We're going to talk to her, and then she's got to go because she's a busy gal, and she has to do some interviewing with some other places. She's just so busy on her weekend here. So we're going to go ahead and start. And first and foremost, thank you all for joining us today. We're going to talk a little bit about wellness in your kitchen. I myself have rheumatoid arthritis and recently diagnosed with axial spondylitis as well, which is kind of a cross between undifferentiated and ankylosing spondylitis. In addition, Sjogren's. So I'm a mutt like a lot of you. So this kind of thing is really important to me. So the reason that I wanted to lead this and talk to these lovely ladies is because I, like many of you who are joining in, while I have a treatment plan and it does seem to do a lot of help for me, I'm still struggling a little bit when it comes to really managing my full wellness. And I know that a good diet plan and clean eating, we'll talk a little bit about that, can really help. We want to preface this by saying this is not a recommendation for an elimination diet whatsoever. You should never do any type of diet changes without first talking with your doctor or rheumatologist. This is only to help you have a better overall idea of what you can benefit from by doing a better choice in your healthy eating regime. So in saying that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start here with Miss Melinda. And Melinda, you have you've been a writer. We have here you are author of Cooking with Arthritis. That's how I actually found Melinda. I got her book and it was amazing. She has a lot of wonderful tips in there. And correct me if I'm wrong, Melinda, but you can get that on Amazon, correct? Cooking with Arthritis?
Yes, you can, or you can go to your local bookstore, and if they don't have it in stock, you can ask them to order it, and they will.
Okay, it's a great book. We'll give you some information about that on the website when we're done. But that's kind of how I started learning about Melinda. And then Melinda, if you could just really quickly just tell people a little bit about what you're doing right now. I know that you write books, but you also do some other things.
I travel across Canada and the United States, and I do seminars and public speak and do different television shows. And I teach people how to cook, incorporating other parts of their body other than just their hands, like your forearms or your shoulders or even your head in some cases. And I also
using your head in a whole new way, huh?
Yeah. And I also teach them how to take everyday things that you find in your home and revamp them to make your daily tasks easier.
Wonderful. And you can see on the screen that we're showing, there's a couple images of Melinda doing just that. She uses her forearms a lot, and I actually took that tip from her, and I've expanded it in other ways. I use these forearms all the time, whether it's carrying groceries or shoving things around. So I actually took that and expanded it from the kitchen to elsewhere. So that's awesome, Melinda. And again, thank you for joining us. I've got a couple questions that we had come in, and I'd like you to elaborate if you would. First of all, we were talking about the kitchen and the setup. Are there any specific types of cooking utensils or appliances that are not as difficult to use or that you can recommend we use when we have autoimmune arthritis, because it's so hard a lot of times with our hands to manipulate items?
Yes, one of my new favorite items that I just started using about 6 months ago is around the holidays you see these wrapping paper cutters. It just looks kind of like a box cutter, but they come in really pretty colors. They're pink and orange and yellow, and the blade comes out a tiny little bit. I use that for everything. I open packages with it. I open bananas with it. I use it to start an orange. I mean, I use it for everything. It is amazing. And because the handle's so big and you can slide your fingers in it, it's easy to deal with. My second favorite thing, of course, I'm famously known for, is I wear a thumb ring. I use that to open yogurt and cottage cheese and anything that has a little plastic lid. I just put it on there and pop it off. My shampoo bottles, everything. I love that. But as a real live kitchen gadget goes, I have to say my all-time favorite is my stand mixer and maybe my blender, because you can do everything from a meatloaf to a smoothie. And I can't live without that. Another little gadget I love is just a simple corn ear holder that you hold the ear of corn with. If you poke that in when you're trying to cut or slice, you can hold it right in place. You don't have to wrap your fingers around it. You can slide it between your forefinger and your thumb. It just is a great stabilizer.
Wow.
But I have to say those are pretty much my favorites.
Okay.
And of course, you cannot live without the dish towel and the rubber band, because if you can't hold a knife or a fork, it's that simple. 2 minutes, you wrap the dishcloth around it, use a hair tie or a rubber band, and you just secure it, and it makes it nice and manageable. Your hands conform to it. It's awesome.
Oh, well, shoot. I wish I knew you were going to say that. I would have tried to do a live demo here for you, but I'm going to give that one a try. When I get off, I got to make lunch, so, I'll give it a shot then. Okay, good. What about, okay, here's a big one. Those of us watching, for the most part, experience some level of pain, or else we probably wouldn't be watching. So when we're trying to cook, what happens when you really need to cook? You got to eat, or you have people that you have to take care of. You have children, you have a spouse, what have you, and you just have to cook. What are some tips about cooking when you're in pain, but also when you're kind of, trying to watch what you eat? What are some things that you might give us some advice on that?
Well, that's what actually inspired me to write the book, because I had small children at the time, and, telling them they could not eat was not an option, obviously.
Right.
So what I do is I plan. I plan all the time. I do my grocery shopping. I try to plan shorter trips instead of a long trip. As soon as I bring the stuff home, I prepare it that day. I wash it and clean it and put it in zippies, and I'm like the zippy queen. I have zippies everywhere. I really do. And I love that, and then it's ready. But another thing I do is when I prepare a meal, I over-prepare that meal. So say I make a meatloaf, I'll make 2 meatloaves because I'm having a good day and I can make 2 meatloaves.
Right.
And then I not only just freeze the meatloaf, which anybody could do, but I break them down in individual little containers, almost like a TV dinner. And I label them and mark them and freeze them. So then if you're having a really bad day, in the morning you just say, hey, kids, take out this one. And sometimes you can color code them or number them, because I color code them. I'll say maybe take out 4 blues and put them in the refrigerator before you go to school. And they do. And then when they come home, they can either just, if you do the the oven-safe ones, you can just pop them in the oven and they taste better. Or if you don't want to do the oven, you just pop them in the refrigerator. Another thing I tell people is allow yourself to have a bad day. It's not great to eat prepackaged or pre-portioned foods, because it's meant to have a shelf life and it always has a preservative, so I don't recommend that. But if you're having a really bad day, and we all know what a major flare-up is, there is no cooking. I mean, I would be lying if I said, oh, I have a major flare-up and I go cook during that. No, right. You can't do that. So if you don't have anything prepared, don't order out, but go ahead and allow yourself to have that bad day and buy that prepackaged lettuce that day, but wash it off well, like get one of the kids or the husband or someone to put it in a salad spinner. The reason I like a salad spinner is because you can use your forearms and your body and spin it out. You don't have to shake it. Once you get it in there and get the lid on, you can actually use your forearms. And I always say make memories. Recruit your family. These
Right.
days, they're going to look back someday and say, wow, I remember when I learned how to make this with Mom. And even though you know in your heart it was a bad day, that child doesn't. They're just happy to spend that time with you. So recruit your family, recruit your friends. I mean, it's great.
You know, Melinda, one of the things that, and I'll tell everyone, I still remember this, when I was reading her book, and yeah, I mean reading, because it's very entertaining. It's not just recipes. It talked about something about a potato sack, and you had your grandkids jump up and down on it or something.
Oh, yeah. It was Christmas time, and we wanted to make Christmas cookies, and it was when I was under that big misconception that your family really doesn't want to know about your pain. That's really a misconception. They really want to know about your disease.
Okay.
So I didn't want anybody to know I was in pain. And my granddaughter kept saying, come on, Grandma, we want to make these. It was a coating for a cake and for the cookies. You had to grind up old cookies. I'm like, oh, I can't do this. What am I going to do? So that's exactly what I did. I put them inside a Zippy, because I am the Zippy queen, and then inside the potato sack, put them on the floor, and told my granddaughter we were going to do a dance. And she just danced and sang and jumped, and when they were done, they were well smashed, I promise you. But it's a memory.
That might work well with, girlfriends over too,
Yes, it does. Like you do it in your heels with a glass of wine, and you're good. But she remembers that to this day.
Okay, well,
yes, she does, and the boys like to do it too.
Yeah. I know you're pressed for time, so I'm gonna narrow this down to one more question here, and that is mainly for what if we're talking about things that we can find assistance and fun things. What if you're single? What if you don't have somebody who can help you? What are some suggestions for kind of cutting down the effort without cutting down the quality of food?
Oh, that's so funny you asked that, because I have a couple single friends, and I hear them all the time. Oh, I eat out and I eat all this unhealthy stuff because I don't feel well. It's less expensive if I go buy. No, it's not. And no, it's not. Again, you're back to prepare and plan. I mean, really, think about it. I'm going to go through the drive-thru at McDonald's and I'm going to be sick for 2 days, or on my good day, I made roast beef and new red potatoes and fresh beans, and I put it in this little container. Now, you may not ever. I have a few friends that never have a good day because they have deformities where they literally think they can't. Well, one friend, I should say in particular, and I showed her she can. You absolutely can. It takes a little bit of effort and a little bit of practice, but get creative. That's what I say. Get creative. Find something in your house like the ring or the wrapping paper cutter or the plant stand with wheels. Revamp that so it fits you. Find ways practice using your forearms and the weight of your body with the apple core to cut your cucumber. Practice that. It's not going to work the first time. It's going to fly all the way across the room the first time.
That's actually
funny,
good you said that.
And that's okay. Pick it up, rinse it off, or throw it away, whatever you want. But it's okay. It's only food. Yeah. But if you make all this stuff up, really you are saving money. If you buy, let's just say you buy, I don't know, a pound package of boneless, skinless chicken breast. For the amount of money that you paid for that, that would have been one trip to the fast food that's really not any good for you. I mean, I really shouldn't say a name of a corporation, but a fast food place that's not good for you.
Right.
So actually you're saving money. You are really keeping yourself busy, which I always say a busy mind is a healthy body, because if you're really busy, you don't really concentrate on the pain as much as if you have nothing to do and you're just sitting there thinking,
right,
I hurt. Because believe me, I do that too. I have my pity parties sometimes that are so big, but then I just move on, I'm just like everybody else. But I tell them, do that. And then you never know. If you made this meal and you have 4 or 5 of your pink containers in there and it's an awesome dish, call one of your girlfriends, have a glass of wine, say, I'm having a really bad day. I want to chat. And, hey, I got some homemade food. And they'll be coming over saying, hey, I thought you were having a really bad day. Well, I am, but I wasn't 4 days ago,
right.
So, I mean, it's really all about planning and paying attention. Journal everything that you do. And I'm a big fan of that. Like if I have a bad day, I will journal what I ate that day, what I did that day. And I try to avoid that if 2 or 3 times I've eaten the same thing or did the same thing and it ended badly. I try not to do that. So if you're by yourself, it gives you more time to journal. It gives you more time to make great dishes. And then you can actually pick up that phone and call a friend later and say, hey, you know, I may be having a bad day and we're chatting, but I have some good food.
That's awesome, and that's a great extra little bonus tip there about the journal, because I know at IFA we encourage people all the time to track or journal your symptoms, but I never thought about tracking and journaling those type of things too while you're at it, because that does make sense. If you're trying to create or understand what your genetic plus environmental, you know, whole scope of your disease is, you kind of really need to chart everything. So thanks for that tip. That was really great. Melinda,
Well,
I know
really
you have to run.
I was just going to say one more thing about that real quick is people don't realize, you know, everybody is different and how their disease affects them is different. So maybe I can eat a grapefruit or an apple and I'm fine, but Sally Joe cannot eat that and she's not fine if she eats that. But if you're journaling that, you learn. Like I know personally for me, if I have any kind of grease like butter or anything outside of olive oil, I am really sick. I swell, I get serious heartburn. I mean, just horrible things happen. But it took me at least a month of journaling saying, hey, I put butter on the toast. I put butter on the toast. But I also did peanut butter that day, you know, so I really didn't get it. But now I get it. So my life is so much better. And I also found stressors from journaling, you know, like on bill day. I don't feel well on the day that it's to pay your bills. And I didn't realize that, so I had written it down for 6 months that every Friday I pay bills, and every Friday, invariably, I feel horrible. So it was a mental thing for me. I mean, everybody's different. That's just me personally, but it worked very, very well for me, the journaling. It really did.
That's real. Gosh, it's just such a great tip. Thank you so much for that. I'm writing notes because I have a feeling there might be a program coming from that. That's such a good tip.
That would be a great program, I think, if you offered that through, you know, like maybe send little journals out and show people how to begin and then compare. Maybe at the end of the week have a little meeting and everybody gets online and talks about their different things that happen. You know, that would be great. It'd give people an escape and, you know, a way to release. And I think it would be awesome.
Wow. Well, you heard it first here. This is where the magic happened. Okay.
Can I actually jump in and say something about that too? I always have people journal what they're eating. I think that food journals really are eye-opening to, I mean, sometimes you think like, oh yeah, I don't eat a lot of processed foods, but once you start writing it down, you're like, oh, holy crap, I do eat a lot of those things. Like I didn't realize. One of the biggest and most eye-opening things for me was last summer, every day I made an Excel spreadsheet, it was the consultant coming out of me, of everything I ate. And it's just, you know, once you can kind of start to pinpoint little things like Melinda said about the grease, it can really, really help. It's huge, huge, so beneficial.
Yes, it does.
Okay, Melinda, thank you again. We really appreciate you fitting us into your busy schedule. I know you got to run, but thank you so much for joining in.
Well, hopefully everybody can watch the shows that I'm filming. They should be coming out in a few months, so keep your eyes open. And hopefully it's not just in Canada, but you'll be able to see them in the U.S. too.
Well, is there anywhere that we can track you or find you to make sure we know when that happens?
They have my website down right now, rebuilding it, Cooking with Arthritis, but it'll be coming back up in a few weeks, and you'll be able to find out from there. And they have Facebook pages and things like that, so you'll be able to see it all very shortly.
Okay.
The secret will be out of the bag.
All right. Well, we look forward to it. Thank you, Melinda.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. It was great. And have a great show.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Well, that was Melinda Winner. Again, we're so grateful that she was able to squeeze us in. She's actually, I think, filming a show for Canada in the middle of when she was on break and came over here. So we're really appreciative that she came over. But now we're going to move on. We've got Miss Julie, who's going to talk about um, eating and wellness habits. So I'm going to change over the screen here so that we can see her screen. And go ahead and hit OK. All righty, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to turn it over to you, Julie. You go ahead and introduce yourself or however you want to start.
Sure, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Julie Cerrone. I'm a certified holistic health coach and also autoimmune patient. And, you know, I've really come to realize that medication is so important for managing our symptoms and managing our disease, but there are a lot of other things that we can do, dietary changes and lifestyle changes that we can make as well that really can make a huge impact in our lives. So today I just want to talk a little bit about managing some of those symptoms and how food really can play a huge role in your life and how it can help you have better days and, you know, have less of those days where you just feel like crap and want to lay in bed. So food really is information. Food can be a fuel for us, or really it can be a poison to our body. Healthy food helps our body work. Our cells take the nutrients from those healthy food molecules that we're feeding and really enhances our body and lets the body do what it's supposed to do. Unhealthy food really it does not help our body. The cells begin to break down, they're not getting the nutrients that they need, and we can really start to cause a lot of inflammation in our body. And having an autoimmune arthritis, you know, inflammation is a huge factor in our disease. And there are some things that we can do to help minimize that inflammation, and that can come through food as well. Chemicals, additives, and toxins really change the function of our cells as well. So when we are feeding ourselves, we want to be cognizant of that. Our gut health is so important. Within our gut, there are tons of these bacteria. There's good, there's bad. We need both. We need a healthy balance of both in our gut to help us stay healthy, to help us combat all of those invaders that are coming into play with our body every single day. And maintaining a healthy gut will help minimize our inflammation. It'll help us control our immune system. And really, there's a lot of research that's coming out now that is pointing to leaky gut, which I'll talk about, as really kind of like a precursor to autoimmune and chronic illness. And this, I think this is going to blow up in the next few years and really start to open up some eyes that, you know, food really can play a huge part in our health. So what is leaky gut? Leaky gut, and this is just, you know, the dumbed down, really quick version of it, is when we, okay, so let me stop back and start that over again. In our gut, we have these cells, and it's supposed to, you know, have like a tight juncture in our gut. So the lining of our gut stops any food, any toxins, any invaders from actually coming into our system. It really is like the front line army from the outside world to the inside of our body. What happens is through foods that we're eating that maybe we're sensitive to, or maybe our digestion isn't working 100%, then those bonds start to break down and they open up. Ooh, my ring skin's caught here. They open up, and then we have molecules of food, undigested food, toxins, maybe, you know, infections, bacteria coming into our body that invoke an immune response. And in a person that has a really healthy immune system, you know, they don't have as much problem because they can fight it off. But when we have, you know, our body kind of attacking itself, then we don't have as many players in the game to fight off those things. So we are invoking more inflammation. We already have a ton of inflammation in our body from our disease. So we're adding to the stress, we're adding to the inflammation, our body's getting overloaded, and then you know what? we get fatigued, we get headaches, our bones ache, you know, our muscles start to hurt, we get all these swelling in our knees and our hands and our wrists. So, you know, I'm not saying that completely fixing this gets rid of our disease, but it takes down half of the things that our body, you know, is fighting, and it doesn't need to fight. So it can really focus on us and focus on healing ourselves. So what causes inflammation? There really are three things that cause inflammation. Genetics, you can just be predisposed to different things. Environment, toxins, what we are eating, you know, sugars, trans fats, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but that can play a big role in inflammation. Nutrient deficiencies can play a big role in inflammation. You know, we can't always change our genetics. Well, we can't change them at all, actually. We can't change our genetics. We can't always control what we're exposed to environmentally, but what we can have some control over is what we're feeding our body and what we're putting into it. So that's why I really feel that food can be a medicine. It's medicinal, you know, it's nature's medicine. It can really help us start to heal ourselves from the inside out. And there are tons of different things that, you know, people say to avoid nightshades, avoid sugars, avoid gluten. You know, there's tons of things out there. And you're getting back to what Melinda said, everybody is different. Everybody's body is so different. You know, how can there be one set of rules that everyone can go by that will help them?
Well, but let me ask you then, Julie, how did you decide like what to use for medicine? If there's so many different ways to figure it out, how did you do this? How did you affect your healing journey, so to speak?
There's so many different things, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit, but I went through an elimination diet and kind of eliminated different triggers to see what was causing me inflammation. And what I have found through doing tons of different research, there's so many different books out there, there's so many different websites, that these 5 food groups really cause a lot of inflammation in our body. And if we start to limit them or completely eliminate them from our diets, we can really start to see huge impacts on our health. So I'll get into exactly what I did after this, but that's a great question. So 5 food groups that I'm suggesting that, you know, if you can limit, are great, that will help cut down on inflammation. So the first one is sugar. Sugar is delicious, don't get me wrong.
It is.
I love sugar. Everybody loves sugar. And the reason we love sugar so much is that it's so addicting. There was a 2020 special Dr. Sanjay Gupta did on how it is, if not more, addictive than cocaine.
Wow.
It stimulates all of our cells in our system. And what happens is our body sends out these extra cytokines, which are immune messengers. And they're saying, hey, bring your immune cells in. We need to fight off this invader, and we cause inflammation. The bad thing about sugar is it is in everything. I mean, everything. Every processed food out there, guarantee you, has sugar in it. It is so hard to find a food out there that does not have sugar in it. Soft drinks, you know, sugar candy, cookies, sandwiches, pizza, you know, even the protein bars that we think are healthy are just completely filled with sugar. Sugar goes by so many different names. High fructose corn syrup, anything that ends in OSE, so like fructose, dextrose, anything that you're looking at the back of an ingredient list, if it ends in OSE, it's sugar. So what can we do? We can swap it out for more natural sources, so maple syrup and honey, dates, coconut sugar. Eat fruits when you're craving sugar. That is a natural sugar. You want to make sure that you don't overdo it on the natural sugars too, because it still will cause a little bit of an immune response, but it's so much better for you than refined sugars that we find everywhere. The next one is fat. Now, you know, the Heart Association put out, how many years ago, guidelines for a healthy diet saying, low fat, low fat. And I'm not saying that you want to completely be low fat, because every cell in our body needs fat to survive. It's just that we need to have a balance of it. You don't want to be eating a ton of fats. And you want to make sure that you're eating the right fats. So trans fats and saturated fats really affect not only our immune cells, but they affect the gut bacteria. And they also, higher our bad cholesterol, lower our good cholesterol, really throws everything out of balance. Omega-6s, which you may not be as familiar with, are really in everything as well. They're in a lot of processed foods. They are in a lot of meats because of the way that cows and pigs and how they're fed. And they're in every common cooking oil that we use. Now, safflower oil, sunflower oil, soy, corn, cottonseed, those types of oils, really, when you think of those oils, you should just think that you're drinking inflammation, because honestly, that's exactly what they're doing. They are promoting inflammation inside of your body. So you want to make sure that you are eating a lot of omega-3 fats, because those are the anti-inflammatories, and they will help to balance out the other fats that you are eating. So, take your fish oil every day, and really, you can take a lot of fish oil. I mean, I take 4,000 to 5,000 fish oil every day, and I see a huge difference in the way my joints work, in my inflammation. Oh yeah, it can really be amazing, because everything that we're eating has omega-6 fatty acids in it, and it's really causing inflammation in our bodies. So salmon, chia seeds. Chia seeds are a really great thing that you can throw on anything, throw in smoothies, throw in oatmeal, cereal, and those help to bring down your inflammation as well. Now, in terms of cooking oils, I really suggest extra virgin olive oil and coconut oil. They are fats, but they are a better fat for you. A lot of the vegetable oils, corn oil, canola oil, they are all heavily genetically modified, and they are not good for our body. So if I would really suggest doing one thing, I would say cook with extra virgin olive oil and coconut oil. Those are two good ones.
Okay.
Gluten, which is like the big hype now, you hear gluten, stay away from gluten everywhere. And gluten is a type of protein that actually is supposed to protect a seed from being ingested by an invader. So, when the seed was created, the gluten proteins there are there to help, if it's ingested by an animal, not to get broken down, so once it comes out the other side, it can actually grow to be a plant. Well, our digestive systems haven't really evolved to completely break down those proteins, and what happens is it can really cause damage to our intestinal walls, which can cause leaky gut. Now, if you have celiacs, obviously you have an allergic reaction to gluten, and you need to stay completely away from it. But a lot of people are sensitive to gluten, and because we can't completely break it down, we will start to get some damage to our intestinal walls, even if we're completely healthy. Now, if you don't have an allergy, it's not going to make you sick, right off the bat, right when you eat it. It can really be something that is subtle and builds, and then will only manifest a few years later, or even years down the line. I suggest brown rice, quinoa, gluten-free oats. Those are really great options. And again, if you aren't allergic to it, you can have a little bit here and there, but it does invoke a inflammatory response, because those proteins are, like the molecular makeup of it, are very similar to proteins within our own bodies. So we can invoke an immune response. One thing to add about gluten is what can happen is once your body starts to attack itself, it looks at different proteins differently. And there's a thing called molecular mimicry. And once it starts looking at gluten and it it recognizes it as an invader and starts to attack it, it will look at any sequence of amino acids that look similar to that and attack it as well. That's why some people have a lot of success with cutting out rice and legumes, any actual grain and pseudograin like quinoa from their diet. Me, for example, I cut out gluten and I did really, really well for a year, but I still was having a lot of fatigue, so I kind of played around with it, and I cut out rice or I cut out all grains and legumes, and since then my inflammation has been like a normal person, and my fatigue is so much better. So it really can, when you're eliminating gluten, if you see benefits and you still are thinking like, oh, there might be something else like that I'm missing here, that's something to think about.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, because because you're bringing up something that's just such a hot topic, as you know. Mm-hmm. Okay, what we don't want is for anybody who's not a patient, especially, to see this presentation and say, see, if you just did this, this, and that, you'll be cured. Or why aren't you doing that? So can you just kind of expand just a hair on, you're not saying that if somebody cuts out sugar or they cut out rice or they cut out whatever, that it's going to have the same effect for everybody. Is that correct?
Absolutely not. Okay. No, it won't. It won't. I wish it would, because that would be awesome.
We'd all be great. We wouldn't even have World Autoimmune Arthritis Day.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Yes. But everybody is so different. Right. I mean, I look completely different than you. I act completely different than you. My tendency, everything about us is so different. Right. That everything that we take in, food-wise or environmentally, even stress and toxins.
Good point.
It affects us all so differently. So, some people will have great responses to it. Other people will not. Take, for example, my sister. She cut out gluten and has been really great, but she finds that eating grains and legumes, really give her extra energy, and she feels better on them.
That's the same with me. That's that's one of the reasons I asked that, because I had tried to start cutting more of those out and I felt worse. So it's just, everybody's different. So
everyone's so different.
To mention that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something that I try to make sure to tell everyone, because I mean, you can't expect to have the same response as someone else. I wish.
Again, would have no need for this event, this presentation, nothing.
Exactly.
There was a one-fit-all answer, right? So.
Yeah, and you know what? And I see Kelly asked a question about saying, what about vegetarians? Cutting out legumes is hard, and that's absolutely true. I mean, when you're a vegetarian, you're looking at legumes for protein, because you're not eating meat. So again, everybody is different. If you're not eating different sources of protein, and you're looking at legumes for that, by all means, you want to still continue to eat them, and your gut may just, if you are having immune response, to the legumes, it would just take a little bit longer to heal. Yeah. Okay. The next one is dairy. Whoops. Now, dairy is near and dear to my heart, because honestly, I used to drink at least a gallon of milk a week. I love milk. And it's something that I miss so much. Honestly, I do miss cheese. I really miss cheese on pizza, but just drinking a cold glass of milk, there's nothing like it. But there are so many people out there who cannot digest milk, and we think I never thought I was lactose intolerant. Growing up, I drank so much milk, but once I cut it out and I tried to bring it back in, I had a horrible response to it. I mean, my digestive system was a wreck for months, and I thought, oh my goodness, I've been drinking and consuming all this dairy for so long, this reaction has been going inside my body, and it was manifesting as acne, headaches, inflammation, like my joints were swollen, and I never put the two and two together. So I think a lot of people can't digest it, but we don't realize it because it's just so, in our culture, that we don't.
Right. And that would be a great example of where the recommendation for a food journal that Melinda
absolutely
recommended
yes.
could come into play.
Yep. Yes. Yep. And it's, there are a few different things in milk that bother us. There is the lactase, which is the sugar in the milk, but there's also the casein in the whey, which are the proteins in the milk. So there's really three different things that three different molecules within the milk, but then also farmers are feeding or giving the animals hormones, which then are causing them to have infections, which they're then giving them antibiotics, and we are getting the residual effects of all of that when we're drinking the milk. I always used to joke and say, like, if I ever have osteoporosis when I get older, I'm going to be so mad because I used to drink so much milk. And
right.
When you think of milk, you think, oh, I'm doing something great, I'm getting so much calcium. But the more I learn about milk, the more I realize that is, it's very acidic in our body. When we consume something that's very acidic, tries to go and pull alkalinity from other parts of our body to kind of balance it out. And one of the first things it does is goes for the calcium and the magnesium in our bones and pulls that out to kind of balance out the milk. So it's kind of counterintuitive because you think you're getting calcium from this milk, but you're actually pulling calcium out of your bones.
Interesting.
So I would suggest swapping it out for coconut milk, almond milk, rice milk. If you are going to have soy milk, I really suggest that it's organic because soy is so heavily genetically modified. And kefir is a really great thing if you can tolerate some milk. Kefir is a good one.
So, Julie, on the interest of time, because we're getting close to the 10 o'clock hour here. Well, 10 o'clock my time. I don't know what we could be at morning somewhere else. Can we talk a little bit about some things that you might want to keep in your pantry? Some kind of key tips that we can leave some people with here.
Absolutely, yes. I just want to say one more thing, though, because the last one here I think is the most important.
Well, we can't miss that then.
Yes, is the GMOs and excitotoxins. And what I mean by excitotoxins really are food additives, MSG, preservatives, food dyes, those types of things in our food invoke an immune response in our bodies. And honestly, cutting those things out helps tremendously.
I'm drinking coffee right now, and I have one of those products in it. So.
I will.
Boo! So I guess I won't be buying that at the store, will I?
You know what? That brings up a really great point. Is that we're human, and it would be great if we could eliminate all of these things and say, like, I'm never going to have sweet and low, or I'm never going to have sugar again.
Right.
But again, we're human.
Okay.
We want to be happy.
Oh man, I'm having a product that's on the presentation as we speak. I don't know.
Well, while you're drinking that coffee, let me tell you exactly what it's doing to your body.
Now I'm like, ooh, I think I'm going to go to the store and get some soy milk and put it in my coffee.
But genetically modified foods are they're organisms that are modified to either be not susceptible to pesticides, or they actually create their own pesticide. And an example of that is corn.
Oh, sorry.
Corn is actually modified to explode the stomach and intestines of an animal or insect that would eat it, so that it would be able to thrive and still grow. That same thing happens in our gut, and that is then it's exploding in our gut, and then it's actually creating a breeding ground for those chemicals in our guts. So if you could do one thing, I would say try to eat whole foods, non-processed foods, organic. Try to eliminate genetically modified foods from your diet. Okay, I'm just gonna skip here.
Somebody at your door? Was it?
Yeah, someone's at my door apparently.
My dog's barking, someone's at your door. The beauty of having a conference from our homes when you have autoimmune arthritis.
Yes, yes.
all the little perks you get.
Oh, so funny. So what's in my pantry? You know, when I tell people what I eat, what I don't eat, they say, well, what the heck do you eat? And actually, you know, I eat real foods, and that's what we really need to get back to, is eating whole, real foods. You know, it's so easy to grab boxed things, and I'm not saying don't have them in your pantry, because some days when you are having a flare-up, that's the best thing for you, because otherwise you're not going to eat. But what do I keep in my pantry? I use almond flour and coconut flour a lot for baking. I will bread chicken in it, use it for breadcrumbs, really anything that I would use, any gluten type of flour. I use almond and coconut flour. Coconut aminos is really great as an alternative to soy sauce. The reason that I don't like soy sauce is because, one, it's usually genetically modified, because soy is one of the top genetically modified products in the U.S. So it doesn't include soy, and it does not include gluten. I use arrowroot and tapioca starch instead of cornstarch to thicken things. Another thing that you can use to thicken gravies and sauces are chia seeds, so then you're getting your omega-3s. Dates are really great to put in smoothies and to really give sweetness instead of having sugar. Now, you know, you might be thinking like, oh my gosh, white sugar doesn't compare to dates, or using like coconut sugar or monk fruit sugar. And you're right, it doesn't. It's, you know, they're not as sweet. But when you cut those things out, your taste buds change. And honestly, when you start eating the dates and the coconut sugar, they're really sweet to you. I'll be like to my mom or my sister, I'll be like, can you taste this and tell me if it's sweet? Because it is really sweet to me. You know, our bodies just will adapt and really.
I was actually thinking, where in the world would I get some of these things?
Okay, that's a great question as well.
Like, I don't even know if I know what that is.
Right. You know what? I'm right there with you, because I had absolutely no idea. You know, when I was going through schooling, they were talking about all these Asian and sea vegetables, and like, okay, well, that's great. That sounds like it would be really good for me, but where the heck am I supposed to get it?
And cost-wise, too. I mean, you know, we're all, you know, our patients, obviously, we're very cost sensitive. So
absolutely. And you know, and that's another thing that people always say, like, oh, it's so expensive to eat healthy. And you know, sure, when you're looking at, you know, an apple in the store, and the organic apple is $1 more than the other one, and you're thinking, oh wow, it is so much more expensive. But honestly, when you're not buying processed foods all the time, and you are just buying the whole foods, you're really not spending more. You really aren't.
And doesn't it kind of fill you up a little bit more too? So
it does. I think so. Spiritually and physically.
You're so.
But where can you get these things? You know, Whole Foods is a great place to get those things, but not everybody has Whole Foods. And actually, I mean, I live in Pittsburgh, but the closest Whole Foods to me is like an hour away. So I have honestly found that a lot of grocery stores are really starting to carry these things.
Okay.
But if they're not there, I love Amazon. I honestly order everything off Amazon, and like coconut flour, the coconut aminos, those things, I order them on Amazon, and half the time I actually get a better price for it on there. So, you know, as long as I don't need it right that day, it's coming in the mail.
That is an interesting tip. I did not know that you could go shopping on Amazon for stuff like that. So
oh yeah, absolutely. And I have another slide here of just some things that I have in my pantry, but I'm gonna have a handout for everyone so that you can take this with you and kind of, you know, think about it after the fact. But yeah, Amazon is a great place for it. You know, another thing I get asked a lot is, you know, what do you cook? What the heck do you eat? And here, again, this will be on a handout that I'll give. These are just some links to some recipes that I really love to make. The great thing about the internet is there's so many people on so many different diets out there that you can find really great recipes. I do have some great cookbooks that I do like to draw from, but I find so many things on Pinterest and so many things on paleo sites. And I know, you know, paleo, a lot of people get turned off because they're like, oh, CrossFit cult. But a lot of those dietary guidelines kind of line up with different elimination diets and eliminating the triggers. So that's a tip for me is I'll go looking for paleo recipes, because that, you know, then kind of like bare bones of things. And there are, I'll send you some links to just some places that I usually look for recipes. Chocolate Covered Katie is one of my favorites because to me, I always have to have chocolate. And she kind of takes desserts and makes, you know, gives a little healthy spin and makes them like less inflammatory. So that's a good one to check out. And then I think I'll just highlight really quickly. So you said, what did I find that worked for me? And again, this is totally what worked for me. Doesn't mean it would work for you. I have found that really avoiding gluten, dairy, soy, corn, legumes, grains, sugar. I eat some red meat, but limited, because I do find that, and this was through journaling, that if I had red meat, my knees would ache. Because my digestion, that I'm healing it, I seem to digest fruits and veggies better when they are cooked, so I try to avoid them raw. So I'll liquefy them. I really work to remove toxins from my beauty products and everything.
Wow. I'm looking at
that. That can invoke an immune response. And, you know, we're talking about food here, but I look at food as two different things: primary food and secondary food. Primary food is everything that you're absorbing, spirituality, career, stress management, all of those things, because that really is food for your body too. And then there's secondary food, what we're actually eating. And we need to balance both of those to really help the inflammatory process in our bodies. So this is kind of what has worked for me. It's been a huge journey. I started working with a health coach that really helped me pinpoint these type of things. And any way that you can really work with someone or work together in a group setting to make dietary changes, I think is so beneficial. So I know you had mentioned that there's a program that is going to be coming out for, you know, helping clean eating and kind of cutting out processed foods and sugars. I think anything like that is awesome.
I'll mention a little bit more of that at the end, but it's so needed. It's so needed in our community.
It is. It really, really is. It really is. And, you know, to me, doing an elimination diet helped me the best. I have some resources on my website that can kind of explain elimination diets a little bit better if you're interested. Not pushing that at all. I saw that there was a question that came in. So, and yeah, really eating healthy can really make a difference in how you feel. And I know I used to eat ice cream every single day because I was like, ice cream is good for me, it makes me feel better. But actually, you know, when I took it out, I started feeling even better. And I found that almond milk, cashew milk, and coconut milk ice cream can just be as good as regular ice cream. And I always will have my gluten, dairy loving family try things, and if they say it's good, then I know it's good.
Okay. Well, Julie, I see one question that's come in here that I want to get in, and I'm gonna. If anybody else out there has any questions, now's the time to type them in. You can type them in on your screen there on the bottom corner. There's a question from the audience. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I'm gonna mention it so people can know what we're talking about. They ask, when you're talking about eliminating food and then reintroducing them slowly, how would you suggest to do this?
To do that. So there are a ton of different books out there that are for elimination diets. When I first started, I started following Julie Danilek's Meals That Heal Inflammation, but Dr. Mark Hyman has one. There's the Body Ecology Diet, the Autoimmune Solution Diet. There's just so many different diets out there. And everybody kind of has a different philosophy on it. Some people say eliminate things for 10 days and then introduce them. Some people say up to 2-3 months. this is what I think. The body takes 3 weeks to really take hold and make whole changes of dietary. Like when you make a dietary change, it takes 3 weeks to really show an effect on your body.
Right.
So I think the longer that you can cut something out, the better. I always recommend people take it out for 6 to 8 weeks, and then have a food journal and incorporate things one at a time. And you want to take a week to incorporate that food. So what you would do is, say on Monday, you would eat that food 3 times, and then write down in your food journal how you felt right after it, how you felt a couple hours after it, and then you actually want to wait 3 days, because a food response can take up to 72 hours to manifest in your body. So 3 days you're journaling how you feel, and then you try it again, and you have 3 servings of it again on Thursday, and then you wait 2 days and have 1 more serving of that food that you're trying to incorporate in, and that really will give you a great picture in how your body is processing it. And different foods will have different symptoms. Sometimes you will get a stuffy nose, sometimes you will get a rash, sometimes you get a stomach ache. So sometimes you'll get a headache. Things that you might not really attribute to food, it really plays all.
That's really interesting. And again, I'm going to tie it back to that great example that Melinda gave us with the journal. I just think that's so great. And I say that really because one of the things that I notice with talking, having autoimmune arthritis diseases myself, but talking with so many around the world, kind of a unique trait is we get so accustomed to, oh, well, it must be my RA, or it must be, my psoriatic arthritis, or whatever that may be, because it does, there are a lot of people who suffer from headaches and things that aren't necessarily listed with rheumatoid arthritis, but it's true. I mean, there is some sort of connection there. There's a little bit of research on it, but there's also just general polls that like IFA has done, for example. So I just think making sure that you're charting everything and then being able to differentiate that. Oh, I was having a headache today. Maybe it isn't my rheumatoid arthritis. Maybe it's not because, my disease is flaring as much as I ate this each day, and I think that would help people to be able to maybe better manage the holistic idea of their. Absolutely. If you missed that, that was holistic. I just saw my hands just fly across the screen. So I'm very animated this morning. I guess I had a little bit too much coffee.
I mean, there's a ton of research out there, but do research on yourself. Take the time to pretend like you are an experiment. Experiment on yourself. Find what works for you, because in the end, that's the best prescription.
Good. Love that. Oh, I'm glad we're recording this. I'm gonna have to. That's gonna be your little quote when we do a review. Well, Julie, it looks like we're running out of time. I think that's all we had on the questions, but that we have time for. But can you first tell us where people can find you?
Yes, absolutely. Here, I have a little slide here. I have I have a blog. It's just a bad day, and oh no, what happened? Yeah, so I have a blog. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and again, I'm not exactly sure how the handout is working, but hopefully.
What we'll do is on the website under worldautoimmunearthritisday.org, there is a link for Detour webinars where you probably, those watching who signed up, there is a list of the 5 webinars, and where we have yours, we will put a little downloadable PDF file there.
Okay, good, because then you can get the links for some recipes and then also my contact information there, so.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Julie, so much for your time. I think this was just so well needed. And, I'd like to just also close by, Julie had mentioned that one of the reasons we wanted to do this presentation as well is because at the International Foundation for Autoimmune Arthritis, we have identified, obviously, this is a big hot topic and an issue, and we understand that treatment needs to be full body, and nobody's the same. And there's so many different ways to try to figure out, or there aren't a lot of instructions on how to figure this out. As you've learned today when we talked about the journal, Julie gave us all these great tips. So we did a pilot program in October of last year, an online wellness support group. And it was very successful. So we are going to plan on relaunching that. And what it will be is talking a lot about what we saw today. It'll be all patients, autoimmune patients. You will register online for that. It'll be an online support group. We'll talk, and I believe, now I can't hold her to this, I have no contracts, but I do believe that Melinda wants to be involved, and I of course want Julie too, and no pressure, you're only on like
I would love
worldwide camera here, but we we do want to have some experts involved so we can have breakout sessions to learn a little more. And the premise is we would be online, and together we would talk about grocery lists, we'd share pictures of what we just ate today, and it kind of gives you that feeling of, wow, I've got people who have my back. And then together we can learn and learn from each other on what's working and what's not. So if you want more information about that, you can go to the International Foundation for Autoimmune Arthritis website at www.ifautoimmunearthritis.org, and it is under the Wellness tab. We will also be giving information about that on the Facebook page for World Autoimmune Arthritis Day later today. So again, thank you everybody who has tuned in. This will be available for viewing as well on YouTube afterwards. So Julie, did you have any final thoughts? Or
I didn't. Just that, don't let your diagnosis hold you back from living your best life, and make small changes can really see huge impacts, and get out there and get support online, in person. Any kind of support is great. And if you need some support, I'm always here.
Great. And when we are too at IFAA. So, well, thank you all so much, and go back and enjoy World Autoimmune Arthritis Day. We're live on the Facebook page and our Twitter all week long through the 21st. So we'll see you there. Thank you all for coming. Bye-bye.
Thanks.